the Congress, I session on National Council for Social Work Education. I welcome Professor Murli Devi, Professor Devi Prasad sir, Miss Rita Panikar, Professor Badas Mohite, and the host of this panel discussion, Madam Professor Helen Joseph, ma'am. I welcome the participants here and request Madam Helen Joseph to take over the session and proceed with the panel discussion. Madam Professor Helen Joseph. She is there. Yeah. Helen ma'am, unmute yourself. कैमरा की पोजीशन भी थोड़ा सा सीधी दीजिए, तो वर्टिकल हो गई है. Helen ma'am, unmute yourself. I think system.
Ellen, we can't hear you.
Yeah, she has to set her screen right and then unmute herself.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Probably it will help if she exit and join again. Yeah, you're right. Right.
No, it's okay.
Unmute yourself, please.
Ma'am. Yeah.
Unmute.
You have to unmute yourself.
नहीं, यहाँ से नहीं.
Meanwhile, let me ask you, Murli, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Rita. Thanks.
Yeah. So, how's the weather like there in Mumbai?
It's the second summer just now, October.
Oh.
So it's not so pleasant.
Yeah.
Should get better from next month.
Okay. We have started getting that chill.
Oh, okay.
The winter is setting in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. So,
Hello.
yeah, Helen.
Yeah.
Good to see you back.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Helen,
I don't know
we
what
can
is the
hear
problem
you.
with my audio.
Yeah, now we are okay. And the call I made a call to you, so don't worry about the call. Again, you are muted. Otherwise, everything is fine. You are muted.
Helen ma'am, please unmute yourself.
I can hear. Enough, no? You'll have to speak. I'll go on to that.
Unmute नहीं किया ना?
Yes. Hello? Huh? No, we are, yeah, we are not able to hear you. Yeah, your mobile, but you have to put the screen properly. And it is coming
No,
vertical.
no. She has to unmute herself.
Yeah. But can't you unmute yourself now on this?
Just a minute.
In the
I'll just
meanwhile,
check.
yeah, right.
You are audible now, ma'am.
Hello, you are audible now.
You're audible? I'm audible?
Yes.
Just go to that video audio setting and see.
You are audible, Helen.
Fine, ma'am, you can start. It is
Hear
fine.
you from the. Okay, then I'll
Yeah,
start.
you can start now.
Yeah, it is fine, ma'am.
Okay.
Fine. Don't touch anything.
All right. Okay. Oh my God, this is really terrible. All right.
Council is very sensitive issue.
True.
All right. Yeah, you can hear me now. Yeah, just
Yes.
nod because
We
then
can
I
hear
can't
you.
hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Anyway, so I will start even though I can't hear you. Right? Okay. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers of this Congress for having given us the time and space to put forth our thoughts on this National Council for Social Work Education. It is indeed a privilege for us to be part of this Congress. And I, on behalf of the National Campaign Committee, would like to welcome all of you present here. I do not know whether there are students, but practitioners, educators, students, civil society organizations, all the association members who are present here. I would like to heartily welcome all of you to this panel discussion. I just would like to introduce myself. I do not know whether I've been introduced, but just would like to say that I retired as professor from the College of Social Work, Nirmala Niketan, being an educator for more than about 31 years. And now as a retired professional, I'm associated with different organizations. One is Arohan, where I'm president and working on the issues of sustainable development there, and with many other organizations that are working on women's issues, etc. I'm also a member of the drafting committee, working group, and the National Council, National Campaign Committee. So this is just a brief introduction to myself. What I would also like to share here is that, when I was looking at the schedule for this particular National Congress, I was extremely impressed by the kind of topics that were presented, in the sense of the kind of discussions and the varied topics that have, been listed. Something, from indigenization of social work to existential crisis to the social work profession in contemporary India, the Reiki model and how it can be used in social work, inclusive, equitable, and quality education, etc. I mean, there are so many topics. And I was very, very happy to know that there is this kind of wide discussion that is taking place. I was also present at the research presentations that took place on the 27th of October. And I was happy that young and not so young professional social work educators, again here, I found that the kind of research papers that were presented were varied and, very grassroots oriented, which is the strength of the profession, and it was so relevant. I felt that I would myself love to read some of the research topics that have come up. Very often we find one of the problems that I see among professional social workers is that they do exemplary work in the field, but somehow they shy about talking about it. whether it is on social media, writing about it, doing research on it. They do a lot of work. They do a lot of work. And this is the time of social media. This is the time when we have to, in a way, sorry for the word, but sell ourselves. As a profession, we need to kind of do some kind of branding. And this is very, very important, I feel. Besides the research that was done, I mean, they were very, very relevant, but we also need to understand that there has to be scientific rigor. And for this, we as, probably some of us senior professional social workers need to help and guide younger, budding social workers in the field to collaborate with educators, to put down their experiences, in some sort of a way which is not only readable, but which also has scientific rigor. I was very happy, in fact, when Dr. Deviprasad, took up the study on, COVID experiences and the contribution that social workers made to, this whole COVID pandemic. And this is not the only area. We have umpteen number of field action projects where our students, our practitioners, our educators are involved with. And it would be really a wonderful experience for us to actually talk about it, make videos about it, share it on social media. People need to know that we are social workers. When we talk about it, they think we are NGOs. Of course, we are part of NGOs, but they do not know that the profession that we are talking about is the profession of social work. Just a few days ago, I visited my doctor and I was talking, and he just asked me what I am, who I am, and what did I do. I said I was a professor of, and he asked me where, and I said, in a college of social work. And he did not know. He did not know that there was a professional course in social work. And this made me realize that if a doctor, would not know this profession, then how many people really know what this profession is all about. So it is important for us to actually do something about, making people know about the profession, that a profession like this exists, and also talking about the wonderful work that many of our social workers are doing. I'm sure that, once the council comes, but we don't really need to wait for the council. We will definitely work towards bringing about this council, but we should not really wait for the council to do this. We must go ahead and see what can be done. The topic for this panel discussion is the National Council on Social Work. And we are very, very happy to tell you that this campaign, started, about a year ago, more than a year ago, actually. And we were consistently working on this issue. Started with a drafting committee, working out some kind of a draft bill, having lots of meetings, webinars with students, with alumni, with educators, practitioners, researchers, social work associations, and civil society organizations. It was probably the most, the best, I would say, example of a consultative process. I wonder whether any council has gone through such consultation, to start or to establish a council in India. And so, true to its principle of allowing participation and, allowing for people to come together to discuss on something, the democratic process, which we so much treasure, we had a very, very consultative process. Right now, we have a draft bill. Of course, it will take a long time for it to become, for it to be passed in Parliament. We are waiting, and we know that it is not going to be easy, but we are sure that we will achieve this target soon. As part of the campaign, a number of webinars were held, to make people aware about the council. Many of them were advocating, meeting, different, people in the government to try and see that, some kind of an advocacy work is done as far as the council is concerned. The committee also worked on bringing about a lot of documentation. And this has been, put together in a source book, a very comprehensive source book, which is about 40 pages, which defines what social work is, what social work education in India is, what are the professional associations of social work literature, and the contributions of social workers in India. Also, the advocacy for the National Council. I will not go into details about this source book because Professor Murli Desai, who is our first speaker, on the panel, would explain this to you, and probably she would also, this e-book, this source book will be released during her session. So I will not look at it. I will not talk about it right now. The social work profession, as we all know, has grown and has reached newer heights of teaching, of learning, of practice. And, surely there are miles to go, and probably the National Council is one step in this direction. And we really hope that we would be able to achieve this. I will not take much of your time. I would like now to introduce the panelists. The first person to go is Dr. Murli Desai, Professor Murli Desai. She will be talking on achievements and challenges of social work education in India. She has 15 minutes. Dr. Murli Desai obtained her master's degree in social work from the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and her doctoral degree in social work from Washington University, St. Louis, US. She was a faculty member at the Tata Institute, where she held several positions, such as head of the Unit for Family Studies, head of Social Work Education and Practice Cell, and associate editor of the Indian Journal of Social Work. She subsequently worked at the departments of social work at the National University of Singapore and at the Seoul National University. The National Association of Professional Social Workers in India conferred Dr. Desai with a Lifetime Achievement Award in 2018 for her contribution to social work education and knowledge development. She was the convener of the drafting committee and of the National Council for Social Work Education Bill 2021 and is the member secretary of its campaign committee. So Professor Murli Desai, may I request you to start with your presentation? Thank you so much.
A very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks, Helen, for that succinct introduction to the council, to myself, to the session, everything.
I can't hear.
For today's session, instead of starting with the council, I'm going to start with social work profession, or rather only talk about social work profession and its achievements mainly. Many small documents were prepared for the campaign by the National Campaign Committee. And what we decided to do was put them together to kind of make a source book for social work professionals as well as non-professionals to understand what social work is all about and what this council is all about. So this is what we have prepared as a source book, which Professor Sanjay Bhatt said that he will release as I'm talking. So is someone making that presentation of the source book? Thank you. Okay, so this is the awareness and advocacy campaign for a National Council for Social Work Education, a source book prepared by the National Campaign Committee. Can we move ahead? Yeah, next page. Okay, we have divided this source book into 3 different sections. The first one is what I'm going to focus on is the overview of social work profession in India. Then we have advocacy about the different aspects of the council. Can we stay on the previous page? Yeah, thanks. And the third section also is very important, where we've tried to identify some key definitions of social work and related terms, because it gets confused with so many other terms. Okay, so now we move to section 1 about overview of social work profession in India. Can we move ahead, please? Yeah, we will skip the preface. Yeah. So what I would highlight here from this section is, first of all, for all of us to know, social work professions and others, that social work is an internationally recognized interdisciplinary academic discipline and profession where social workers are trained through classwork and fieldwork practicum based on scientific body of knowledge, values and ethics, and skills of working with people and with systems. Second point that one needs to understand at the international context is that the data of the International Association of Schools of Social Work show that in 2010, there were 2,110 social work programs being taught in more than 125 countries. So what we first want to establish is that this is not something that some people in India has started. It's an international academic discipline and profession, and it has a systematic body of knowledge and education methodology like every other profession. I will skip the global definition of social work profession that we've given here and move to the section on definition of social work profession in India. In the last Social Work Congress, NAPSRI had organized discussion on the definition of social work profession in India, where what we arrived at is the following definition. Professional social work trains a cadre of social workers to promote community and social development through rights-based universal provision for basic needs and social justice for the socially excluded groups. It is guided by the Indian constitutional values, India's commitment to the international human rights law, and social work professional ethics. It is underpinned by interdisciplinary theories of social work, applied social sciences, and development studies, combined with indigenous knowledge and practice wisdom. It adopts participatory and empowerment approaches for intervention with individuals, families, groups, and communities, and their monitoring and evaluation. It works in collaboration with systems of the state and civil society and carries out policy and program analysis for meeting the goals of social justice and social development. All the different milestones where we have kind of contributed to professionalization of social work, I will now share with reference to 6 dimensions of social work of any profession, which is education, practice, associations, literature, ethics, and so on. So when we talk about social work education in India, we all know it started in 1936, etc. What is important to understand here is that there are more than 500 social work education programs being affiliated to 181 universities in most of the states and many union territories of the country. As per the report of the All India Survey of Higher Education, more than 1 lakh students were enrolled in BSW and MSW programs in 2018 and 19. Over 5 lakh professional social workers are estimated to be currently working with civil society organizations, government, corporate sector, schools, hospital and health sectors, criminal justice systems, as well as other welfare developmental agencies at the state, regional, national, and international level. What is most important to note in the mushrooming of the social work programs is that it is in demand as one of the best job-oriented courses in the university system. Almost 3/4 of the students get jobs soon after their graduation from a social work program. With this status of social work education, government support is not at all falling behind. Today, we are waiting for the government to acknowledge the need for a social work council for a social work education. However, several systems of the government since its beginning have supported social work education. UGC, University Grants Commission, has supported 3 reviews of social work education. In 1965 and 1980, the first 2 review reports were published. The third one is not yet published. In 1990, the UGC sponsored preparation of a report of the Curriculum Development Center for Social Work Education, followed by another similar exercise in 2001, again supported by UGC. UGC also sponsored refresher courses focusing on social work education from 1989 to 2005. In 2019, UGC sponsored development of a learning outcomes-based curriculum framework for a BSW program. Ministry of Education has supported, in 1950, it set up an advisory board which prepared a uniform syllabus for a 2-year social welfare course. The Planning Commission in 1968 published the first edition of Encyclopedia of Social Work in India. In 1976, Ministry of Education and Social Welfare published a handbook of social work educational facilities in India. Ministry of Welfare couple of times has supported similarly the publication of the encyclopedia as well as a directory of social work education facilities. In 2005, NAC supported preparation of a manual for self-study of social work education institutions. So we see that several systems of the government of India has supported social work education for a long time. Now, several legislation, several schemes also have identified professional social workers as required among other disciplinary qualified people as for recruitment of their staff. Professional social work practice in India, it's a huge field, so many social workers working in so many fields. But if we give an overview, we can say that professional social workers have made significant contribution to social justice policies and programs for almost all the socially excluded groups: women, Dalits, tribals, landless and small farmers, unorganized and migrant labor, children, youth, older persons, persons with disabilities and victims of displacement, statelessness, environmental disasters, and so on. Professional social workers have also made valuable contribution to social development policies and programs for poverty eradication, food security, water and sanitation, livelihood and employment, health, housing, environmental sustainability, literacy and basic education, etc. Professional social workers have made path-breaking contribution to interventions in schools, health systems, criminal justice systems, and institutions set up under various legislation. Professional social workers have always been proactive in their response during calamities and disasters, which includes the latest pandemic of COVID-19. Professional social workers develop and demonstrate innovative field practice, several of which have influenced national level social policies and programs. Professional social workers have also contributed to a range of policies and programs as consultants to various UN bodies, as well as the multilateral and other international organizations. Now, if we look at social work professional associations in India, as of now, we have 4 national level social work professional associations and 10 state level social work associations. And we also have an India network of professional social work associations, which is a network of the above different groups and associations. As far as social work literature is concerned, you see for every dimension or every criteria for professionalization, India is far ahead of most of the other countries, so-called developing countries. India has had 3 editions of Encyclopedia of Social Work in India. I've not heard of any other country except the US and UK. and Australia to have had 3 editions of encyclopedias. India has had 2 review reports of social work education, which we talked about earlier. India publishes 18 social work journals. This is again a number which is very highly impressive. Then we look at social work ethics as the last dimension of social work professionalization. Initiatives have been undertaken. The first initiative was undertaken in 1997 by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences Social Work Educators Forum that prepared a declaration of ethics for professional social workers with inputs from its faculty members. Based on the values of social work, Indian social values, and emerging values of the civil society approaches, the declaration provides a value framework, a pledge, and ethical responsibilities in different areas. TISS named it a declaration because for a code of ethics, we need a monitoring and enforcement body, which we don't have as yet. This declaration was revised by the Bombay Association of Trained Social Workers in 2002 with the help of a new committee, which again re-looked at all the different aspects of the document. In 2015, NAPSI prepared a code of ethics for professional social workers in India with the aim to again articulate its values and ethical principles, and by referring to several codes of ethics in different countries. However, it doesn't remain a code of ethics until there is a council or a similar government body to enforce it. So the level of professionalization in social work has been quite impressive. However, it doesn't mean that there are no limitations and there are no challenges, but we'll talk about those maybe later. Here I want to just add that the recognitions that have been received by professional social workers, by Government of India, by international associations, and so on, which also would make all of us feel very proud. Dr. J.M. Kumarappa, the former director of TISS, was nominated to Rajya Sabha, the upper house of Indian Parliament. Professor M.S. Gore was awarded Padma Bhushan. Professor Rajaram Shastri was awarded Padma Vibhushan. Professor Armaiti Desai was appointed as a chairperson of the University Grants Commission. 2 of professional social workers, Sheila Patel and Smita Krishnan, were awarded with Padma Shri. Now, Indian professional social workers who received different international awards, the list is again very impressive. Professor Armaiti Desai received the Catherine Kendall Distinguished Service Award for outstanding contribution by the International Association of Schools of Social Work. Medha Patkar and Dr. Ruth Manorama, both of them received the Right Livelihood Award for their work in the field. 7 of professional social workers have been awarded with Ashoka Fellowships, and there may be more. This is our homework, which may be limited, and we would welcome additions to this list. Dr. Olinda Pereira was awarded with Mahatma Gandhi Peace Award from McMaster University in Hamilton, Canada. Manjula Pradeep was conferred the Woman Pacemaker Award by the Joan Kroc Institute for Peace and Justice of the University of San Diego. Now, a brief list of contribution of Indian professional social workers to international social work associations. Professor Armaiti Desai was elected the first president of the Asia Pacific Association for Social Work Education. In fact, she was responsible to start the Asia Pacific branch of the ISSW. Professor Niranjana Gokarnam was elected the General Secretary of APASWE. Professor Vimla Nadkarni was the first Indian president to be elected for the International Association of Schools of Social Work. Professor M.S. Pawar is just now the president of the International Consortium of Social Development. Mr. M.V. Sri Ganesh is elected the Asia Pacific Regional Vice President of the International Federation of Social Workers. Professor Sanjay Bhatt is elected President South Asia for the International Council of Social Welfare and was appointed as Ambassador Global Social Service Workforce Alliance. Professor Shah Jahan was elected Vice President of the ICSW. Professor Ashok Kumar Sarkar is elected the Chairperson of the Asia Pacific branch of the ICSD, the International Consortium of Social Development. So very often in the interviews, when we ask social work students, what do you know? Who do you know? Which social worker do you know? Generally, we hear students talking about Meda Patkar and some other social workers who may not have professional degrees. We have a much, much bigger list, even than what I just read out, of outstanding social work educators and practitioners doing very innovative and effective work in India. So let us feel proud of them. Let us be aware of what they have done, why they were awarded, and let us, similarly take the profession ahead with more innovative work. To end this presentation, all I want to say is that with such a profession, with a high level of professionalization, we are facing several challenges, and we are still not recognized enough to be given a council for social work education, when there are 11 other professions in India which have their own councils. So we need to all be aware of all our achievements so that it strengthens our demand for a council so that we can have quality regulation in our profession and take it much ahead. Thank you very much. Helen,
So much, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Murli. I'm sure it was quite an eye-opener to many of us who do not know the contribution of social workers in the field of, development and education and whatever. So it is really good, and I'm sure the source book would really be helpful. Our next speaker is Professor Deviprasad, who would talk about the need for council for social work education bill in India. Just to introduce Dr. Deviprasad. Professor Deviprasad was former professor and chair at the Center for Equity for Women, Children and Families, School of Social Work, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. He was formerly director of the Center for Social Studies in Surat. He also taught at the Department of Social Work, Andhra University. During the last 3 decades, he has trained professional social workers, taught courses on research methodology, aging and family studies and family violence. Professor Deviprasad was instrumental in bringing Childline program to Visakhapatnam and several other child protection initiatives. He is on several academic bodies of social work in India, as well as on the boards of several NGOs. He has published widely on social work, education, family studies, research methods, and development sector. So thank you very much, Dr. Deviprasad, for being present here. I request you to make your presentation.
Thank you, Professor Helen, for the introduction. Professor Keshav Walke, MSS Institute of Social Work, Professor Dwivedi, President NAPSMI, Professor Sanjay Bhatt, convener of the National Campaign Committee of the National Council for Social Work Education, Professor Helena, who is chairing the session, my fellow panelists, and other most distinguished colleagues and participants. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity. And what I'm going to talk about is that why do we need a council for social work education in India? That is what I'm going to address. And I think more than a year back, if we recall, on 14th July 2020, the third sector unit of Niti Aayog organized a meeting of invited social work educators, and the discussion was around do we need a council for social work education in India? Though I would not hesitate in giving credit to the person who has called this meeting, who happened to be one of our social work professional social workers, I would like to add that the origin of this idea for a national council can be traced back to the first and second review committees to the 60s and 70s. Am I audible? Am I clear to most of you?
Yes, you are clear.
Okay, thank you so much. Can be traced back to 1960s and 80s, and many of us are also aware that in addition to the recommendations by these committees, there were also efforts during 1993 and early 2000s to draft a council draft so that a national council can be established on the basis of this draft. So post Niti Aayog meeting, a voluntary working group consisting of a few social work educators was formed. And this group pursued the preparation of a draft Council for Social Work Education bill in the name of 21. And I was part of the committee, and we consulted the earlier efforts in preparing the draft bill. And to cut this story short, a bill was prepared, and the draft bill of the National Council for Social Work Education was submitted to the Prime Minister's Office and the Minister of Education on 26 January 2021. So it almost took a year to conduct these consultations and everything and submit a draft. I do not say that this draft is final, because it might act as a kind of a source or a kind of a guideline for the government, if the government is willing to or take initiative in establishing a council for social work. So it is at this juncture, again, now almost after a year, after the date of 14th July, I think a year more than, in addition, 3 months. And now we are asking the question, why do we need a council for social work? In fact, this question we have been asking during the last year at several stages, while we are facing different kinds of challenges at different stages. So, and when I am asking this question now, and when I am going to address this question, I think I am going to put up a different kinds of reasons which are most relevant at the current scenario. In addition to this, the National Council for the National Campaign Committee has drafted a very brief 10 reasons why we need a Council for Social Work in India, which is the advocacy toolkit. I request all of you to go through this a small note as well. So before we proceed to ask this question, let us ask, what is the purpose? What would be the purpose of this council? Very, very briefly. The purpose for demanding the establishment of this council for social work in India is to address the major deficits of the profession facing in India, the poor standards in curriculum and training, commercialization of social work education, and lack of solidarity and vision for the profession as a whole. I do not argue that the council is a kind of a solution for all the ills of the profession currently suffering, but I would consider that it would definitely be an entity which can bring some kind of a order in the standards of social work profession, given the current scenario that we are now in. Now, let me take, as I was mentioning to you, what are the justifications for the council in the given scenario that we are now in? I would say I would take up 4 important or 4 major reasons to argue in favor of the establishment of a council of social work in India. These are in addition to the 10 reasons. The reasons may be a little bit more also. I'm not going into those 10 reasons. The first important reason is the curriculum quality and training standards that are there prevailing in the current scenario. I think that is the curriculum quality and training standards. That is the major concern that we are facing, which needs to be salvaged as urgently as possible at the moment. If I am not considered overcritical, I would summarize the scenario of social work education in India as a sea of mediocrity with islands of excellence. There are social work institutions, which give which has a quality curriculum, which give good training and perspective building to the students. But there are several social work programs due to lack of guidance or supervision. I think the kind of perspective building that happens in these programs and the quality of the curriculum is, I think, there is much to be decided. Now, there are various factors for this state of affairs, and I do not want to go into all these details, but I believe that a standard setting regulatory body like a national council would be able to address this to a great extent under a good leadership, and it can also bring a kind of uniformity in the curriculum and in the training standards, at the same time being sensitive to the local context. So both can be balanced, and that would be the important business of the National Council. Then the second important major concern, I think, is the growing individualism in the context of neoliberalism. Neoliberalism in its pursuit for profit, I think most of you agree with me, among other things, has led to the fragmentation of the society and the promoting of the individualism. In fact, it is easy for the market to influence individuals rather than the bigger communities and cultural groups. Therefore, to my mind, the neoliberalism has been promoting this kind of individualization a lot in several areas. It can be culture, it can be art, it can be social sciences, whatever it may be. And this kind of a Ayn Rand type of individualism being promoted, where I think the current youth, they talk about doing one's own thing, my life, my body, my. So this kind of an individualism is present in a majority of the among the youth, and this has an impact on the sense of being a part of collective and thinking about the collective. So this has in fact eroded into this kind of sense of collective, and this is definitely affecting the civil society sector. Most of the civil society sector people are being concerned about it, and this is definitely also going to affect the profession of social work in terms of availability of youth with an altruistic perspective, which is very important. So we are aware that there were times where great personalities like Vivekananda, Ramaswamy Periyar, Kandukuri Vireslingam in Andhra Pradesh, Ambedkar, Mahatma Gandhi, they were role models of the youth at some point of time. And I don't think, I'm not saying that such kind of a tribe is not existing, but what I'm saying is they are declining in numbers. Youth with an altruistic motive, youth with a sense of collective purpose, with a sense of identification with the collective good, to do something for the other. There were in a generation or two generations before there were, but that is declining definitely because of the neoliberal tendencies, and there need to be, apart from the profession of social work, there need to be a kind of a body which can, I think, nurture this kind of sensitivity and promote this kind of sensitivity in addition to the existence of the profession. I think that is my concern, and I strongly feel that a council, an embodiment of the professionals, social workers' perspective, can do this business better. Then the third important justification is better and more effective social work human resource planning. It is true that at the moment, see, there were two attempts to make social work human resource planning. One was done by Professor T.K. Nair long time back, maybe in 70s, and another was by NIPSE. But afterwards, there was no serious attempt to assess the social work human resource power or the planning after that. So I would also agree that at the moment, there are several legislations which are recognizing some important positions for professional social workers. There are also employment opportunities in the public and private sector for social workers. For instance, Juvenile Justice Act talks about social workers. Then Mental Health Care Act talks about psychiatric social workers. There are also, I think in the recent national education, people are talking about trained social workers and school complexes, school complexes. But let me confess that the employment scenario and the employment scene for professional social workers is not that encouraging, whether it is in public and private sector. In short, I can say that the nomenclatures are different. Some positions are voluntary, some are paid, and most importantly, most of the positions are middle or lower, are in the middle and lower salary rung compared to the other professionals who are being trained by development sector. For instance, development studies, IRMA, and other people are training people who are occupying positions which in fact could be competently occupied by professional social workers, and they are getting better salaries than our own professional social workers. What we do in our schools, we train them, we help them work at the grassroots level, we build their perspective for social justice, human rights, development perspective, and at the same time, they go and work at a lower level in the lower ranks of the society. This is mainly because there is no proper identification, redefining of the employment opportunities that will fit the competencies of the training and perspective building that we do for our students in our profession. I think there is people say that the new education policy is talking about trained social workers, but what is the salary? What is the position of it? I think our students are better suited to do much better job. People are already doing much better job in the field, in the volunteer sector. Take, for example, Medha Patka, Reta Panika, and take anyone, Jeru Bilumaria, our own people. They did a lot of excellent work. So I do not think that we need to be satisfied with these kinds of positions which are mentioned currently. Therefore, we need a council which can actually act as an advocate, and it will identify the proper opportunities, defend them for ourselves, and tell people, the important stakeholders, how professional social workers, at the same time, maintaining the quality and the training standards, and argue with the important stakeholders about where we fit properly. Of course, I do not say that we will not fit there in the managerial positions in the as trained social workers in school. I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is that our trained social workers are much better. They can do much better job. They can do much different jobs like advocacy and working for the poor. So because our perspective is different as compared to the other kinds of people who are working or who are competing with us in the development field and in other fields. So this is an important area which the council can address, and therefore we need a council to negotiate this kind of a journey for the profession. And lastly, the consistent guidance and direction to the profession in the country. I would say that just as a body without the spine cannot stand, a profession without a national level representative body cannot survive for long and maintain its identity and functional boundary in the country. At the moment, I agree that there are 4 national level bodies, around 15 regional level bodies. There is NAFSWI, there are several other bodies which are doing excellent job. Actually, the job being done by the the National Social Work Congress is excellent. It is an area where I think all social workers can come and meet together. It always reminds me the World Social Work Social Forum. It is like that. See, people with diverse interests, diverse capabilities, they can come and meet here and share. All these strategies are great. They are actually keeping our profession still alive. But still, I would say that a national level regulatory body and a national level professional social work body in the lines of body of the social work programs in the lines of Association of Schools of Social Work in India is the need of the hour, because they actually, in addition to the existence of all these important spaces, bring status, bring life to the profession and maintain its identity and functional boundaries. So both are absent in the context. We tried to bring in, after the death of the ASWI, we tried to bring the National Social Work Education, the NCSWB, if I remember correctly, but that was only short-lived. It did not live more than a year. Though we did an exercise, we drafted a constitution. The constitution was registered in Madras, and there was a committee, but somehow it did not go further. So that is, I think, what is needed now. We need a consistent, continuous guidance and a vision to the profession, and that can be at the moment provided by a national council, and if it is possible, by another voluntary professional body of the schools of social work. So this is another lacuna that the council can fill at the moment if it is established. Now, having I covered, I think these are the 4 concerns which at the moment I think we need to think, and once we, I think there are other reasons. Once we are very clear about these the urgent reasons, I think then our efforts and our actions will be more focused, and perhaps we can take up a better mobilization, better strategies to realize this kind of a goal. The National Campaign Committee has been doing so many things, and I always wonder that the journey that we have taken up from the beginning, at different times we face different challenges. At one point of time, the effort that was made by the National Campaign Committee, and when the bill is under preparation, there were several questions asked. The committee and the other people who associated with this mobilization have accommodated in a very transparent manner, in a very open-minded manner, everything that will strengthen the bill. So that was an excellent exercise. In fact, at the beginning, there was a kind of I do not say it's a vilification campaign, but people simply said that the bill will actually be antagonistic to the voluntary sector. That was a time when a great deal of education, a great deal of writing has to happen to tell people that this has nothing to do with the voluntary sector. In fact, we value the voluntary sector. We take them as our inspiration, identities, as our sources of inspiration. But it took some time. So what I'm trying to say is that there were several challenges we face, and I think the advocacy toolkit that has been prepared by the National Campaign Committee will be one of the important instruments, not only to help the professionals, even non-professional social workers, to understand about the profession, the status of the profession, and what the profession can do for the national development. It is also heartening to see we conducted a study on the professional social work response to the COVID-19 pandemic in the second wave. It is heartening to see how the community of professional social workers has made significant contribution in terms of providing essential and emergency support services all over India, in terms of creating awareness, in terms of providing support services during this COVID-19 scenario. The study explored what the departments of social work and schools did, and what the what the civil society organizations headed by professional social workers did, and what the individual social workers did during these times. We are working on that report. That is another thing. So what I'm trying to say is that I'm not going to cover the other part, what are the other achievements, what we can do, the plans and everything. I'm not going to cover. But at the end of my presentation, I would like to say what we are as social workers, what issues we are taking up, what commitments we are making, what responsibilities or responses we are actually reflecting. That will define the profession at the end of the day. It is what we do actually sets the boundaries for the social work profession. Therefore, it is always important for us that we need to pay attention to this, and I would suggest that even though the journey is too far, too long, let us move towards realizing this goal of having a council for social work in India, so that it will help us in defining not only our identity, our vision, but also in making us a fundamental instrument to bring national development to this country. I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deviprasad. Thank you so much. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, social workers, when you really describe sea of mediocrity with islands of excellence, I think that kind of sums up the problems that we have. You have delineated some of the concerns and the challenges, and also our achievements. Well, we will have question and answers, so I'm sure many of you will have questions to ask our panelists. But now we will go on to the next speaker, and that is Ms. Rita Panikkar. She will talk on the practitioner's perspective on the National Council bill. Rita Panikkar is founder director of Butterflies, a non-governmental organization. She completed her MSW from Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and her master's in development studies from International Institute of Social Studies, Netherlands. Prior to founding Butterflies, she was a faculty member in the Women's Studies unit at Tata Institute. Rita has published several papers on child rights issues, co-authored studies on children and crime in India, sexuality and masculinity, boys' perspectives, and children of islands. So she has a lot of experience, and I have known her work. Welcome, Ms. Rita Panikkar. Kindly make your presentation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Indian Social Work Congress Organizing Committee, NAPSRI, and their office bearers. I would thank you, Professor Helen Joseph, Professor Sanjay Bhatt, Professor Deviprasad, Professor Murli Desai, and a whole lot of my friends and colleagues from both from the academia and from the practice. It's a privilege to be here, and especially in the midst of all of you. So I take this opportunity to share some of my thoughts and, of course, concerns about professional social work. The National Council of Social Work Education bill, I think this has been on the agenda for so very long. I think maybe about 25 years or more. And this has been a demand by both social educators and practitioners. Some of the pioneers and initiators of this demand are unfortunately not among us today. But it is for us to take forward this journey and this demand and see that it becomes a reality. I mean, I fail to understand that how most of the other professions, such as lawyers, medicine, nurses, chartered accountants, architects, journalists, and so on and so forth, all of them have councils. And some of them are also accredited to international councils. So it is, I think we have come to a watershed moment, I feel, with the pandemic, that it's time for us to put our act together and truly, advocate with the government to see that, and with the parliament. I don't know, parliament, twice we put in our bill, but it didn't get introduced. But I think we need to push it and see that our National Council of Social Work Education actually comes into being. And I hope we can all see that day. Now, why is it important for us to have a National Council of Social Work Education? Like Professor Deviprasad said, that there was some kind of misunderstandings in the social work field when this whole discussion was taking place. And it's true. I mean, there's a whole lot of people who are doing excellent work, but are not professionally qualified social workers. So they got kind of, in a sense, a bit cheesed off, I must say. It was not just a threat, but cheesed off that, who are these guys to say that they are the professional social workers and we are not? So I think it is important for us to explain very clearly from where we come from. Because it would be a sad day if there is a divide between us in the development field. So that's very, very important. The professional social workers need to be recognized as professionals because we bring in a rigor of multidisciplinary studies to our practice. And when I'm working in the field, it is a multidisciplinary approach, and it is done with a rigor. As professional practitioners, we are in the position to bring about a lasting transformation in the lives of the marginalized communities. We also learn from them. We also take their indigenous knowledge and we also build on it. We also bring about the change, but also in putting it out there in the public domain. So as professional social workers, we are also not only transforming the lives of the most marginalized, but we are also, in a sense, giving them the space. And in many cases, it is not we who are there in the forefront, but it is the marginalized who are there in the forefront. And that's what a professional social worker should be doing, I think. And that's very, very important. When we speak about the pandemic, in fact, last year and this year, when it was really bad, and there was also the lockdown, who was there in the forefront? It was the professional social workers. We were the ones who were in the forefront, and we were the ones who supported the most vulnerable, marginalized people, even before the government put its act together. Now, what did it say? We were able to organize, we were able to see, we were able to map, and we were able to tell the government, see, look, this is the area where you need to go. So we played a very, very crucial role during this pandemic. And I must say that it is our knowledge as professional social workers that sometimes also gets recognized by the policymakers. I know for sure, because I've been in a number of government committees where it is the professional social workers who really develop the policies. They're able to review it, amend it, to be able to say that, look, what you have is so outdated, it's not of any use, and you need to relook at it and review it. What about legislations, the laws? It's we who bring in our knowledge, our experience, and our expertise on the table. even the program. Even when it comes to budgeting, let me tell you, friends, we have been able to push the government to give more budgets in areas which was being not, very well financed. So we play a very crucial role even in policy formulation in our country. And that is something that we should be, in a sense, recognized, but also, I would say, proud of. Now, if I were to, say a few things which I feel that the council can do is that it is important that the council, if we have a council, it recognizes actually the professional social work, but also put standards on our education and practice. And this is actually what Professor Deviprasad said. You have hit the nail on the head. It's so very important to put standards in our education and practice. And I'm saying this because we do, as an organization, we actually hire only professional social workers. And sometimes one is really, really very disappointed, at the group that we hire. The council should review, the curriculum and syllabus of social work education on a regular basis, and address its relevance, and when necessary, include the emerging areas of studies. I find that as practitioners, it's so very important to have an analytical mind, because you are sitting on a gold mine of data and information. But if you are not research oriented, you just lose out on all that knowledge. So I think, so for me, when we speak about Masters in Social Work curriculum, I think research needs to play a very, very crucial role. When we speak about advocacy, advocacy is another area which the schools of social work should be building its strength in education. But advocacy cannot stand by itself without research, because you need evidences, you need empirical evidences to advocate for some change or the other. And therefore, I see this research and advocacy coming together. And that's one area I think the schools of social work must add on to their curriculum. I would also say that with this pandemic happening, perhaps disaster management, maybe that's an area that we should be looking at. And right now, the disaster management, who are they? I don't want to name them, but, all of us know. But some of them are pretty clueless, even of the community that needs immediate help. So disaster management is not only numbers and figures and what did you do, but to understand that maybe in this particular area where you have a community, they need much more than maybe the dry rations. Maybe there is a fear that a number of children are going to be trafficked. So you need to look at that area too and see what can be the mechanisms and measures you can have in that. So that is something that that needs to be also added on to the curriculum. The other major area I find that as a practitioner in the work that I've been doing, monitoring, evaluation, and learning is absolutely necessary for any CSO, any grassroots organization, or even any other, even if it's not a grassroots organization. But monitoring, evaluation, and learning is so crucial, because everybody asks you at the end of the day, what is your impact? The impact can only be measured if you do have a matrix, you have a monitoring mechanism in your organization, and you're able to track it. But most of the professional social workers who graduate from the schools of social work are clueless, absolutely clueless on that. Even I must say, it disappoints me that they find it so difficult to even understand what data should you be collecting. And how do you collect that data instead of making these multiple kind of figures and data, which confuses everything. So even collection of data is I find that one needs to educate even a person who has done his MSW. When he joins, we have to teach them, we have to school them on data management. We have to reschool them on research. We have to reschool them on process documentation, which is again so important. So these are areas which I feel that the schools of social work as of now has failed to look at it. We cannot go with the traditional subjects that we are teaching. We need to be relevant to present needs. And that is something that I would really advocate for. That the other thing that the pandemic has shown us was, and now I find that globally, and in fact, UNICEF is one of in their five areas of focus areas in their strategy is mental health. Now here we have schools of social work teaching medical and psychiatric social work, but it is not given the weightage it should be given, because practicum is practically zero. There is no concurrent practicum happening when you are taking medical and psychiatric social work. You have to do that. And in your first and second semester, I think medical and social casework and social group work should become mandatory. And when you say mandatory, have the practicum for it. And that's very, very important. I would say the other area that we have seen emerging is family studies. There's a lot of families, there is a dissolvement of families. Families are breaking down, they're collapsing. Now, how do we help families to stay together? How do we strengthen it? How can we look at the sustainability of families? And how can we get all the actors, that is, the government has a number of welfare programs, as organizations we should be coming in and looking at and saying that, okay, there is this family that needs it, and zero in and give them that support. No, what do all of us do? We wait for the collapse. And after the collapse, all of us emerge, all of us go to help. So I think family studies is another area which we already have in our curriculum, but can we relook at it? Can we really strengthen that and make it one of the core areas of education in our schools? And as I said, that it is important that concurrent fieldwork should be mandatory in social work education. I was shocked to hear that there are some schools of social work where there is no concurrent fieldwork. They put it together for 2.5 months. And what are we doing? I mean, what is our as professional social work education, our major departure from all other courses is that we have what we say theory and practice. And that's what makes us special. That's what gives us our USP as compared to anything else. But here, we are not doing that. And therefore, this council becomes so very important to put those standards in these schools of social work. You cannot have a school of social work teaching education without concurrent fieldwork. It's not on. And I think that's very, very important. And I'm saying this out of my own personal experiences of all these students after they pass and they come and they're pretty clueless. So how do we, and we have to re-educate them. And that's, it's a drain on our resources, a complete drain on our resources to be again teaching and re-educating our MSWs. The other one, what you said, Professor Deviprasad, is also important, that me and myself. you know. I think that we need to be talking. If you are a social worker, then you should be talking about the people. And that's when the famous Chinese philosophers saying comes to me: go to the people, live among them, learn from them, build on what they know. And when the task is accomplished, they say, we have done it ourselves. I think that should be our mantra. And that should be what we should be doing in when we are teaching, when we have the ethos that prevails in our schools of social work should be this ethos, not the ethos, which is I, me, and myself. And I would say for the concurrent fieldwork placement of the trainee, the council could provide accreditations to organizations, both government and non-governmental, which have supervision standards in place, because you need to have a supervision standards in place. And that's very important. It should be articulated completely also in the functions of the council. This is very important as our education is based, I want to repeat myself, on theory and practice. I would say that social work education should explore new theories and develop social work literature in new areas such as refugee crisis. As we know, refugee crisis internationally is a huge emerging area. There are lots of people moving across borders, and that's an area that we need to look at and build our knowledge and our theories, and that should be part of our education. Migration, technology, and its impact, especially on families and social relationships. This needs to be also looked at, not just saying how digitally, well-versed we are, because most of us are challenged, when it comes to digital things. But it's not just that. What is it doing? What is technology doing to our society, to our families? And that needs to, and our social relationships. I mean, I think most of us know that when we are at home, everybody is sitting on this with their smartphones. Who talks? Nobody talks to each other. So I think we need to think about it. I would also say that, lastly, that the council should contribute to build a greater synergy between social work practitioners and social work educators. We should not be on the opposite sides of the fence, and we should not view ourselves as enemies, and protect our turf, so to speak, but rather we are both. We are practitioners and we are educators. So if we can come together, there's nothing more, we can complement theory and practice and explore, new research areas, new theories in the development sector. And this, I think, my dear friends, will help us to have a niche in the knowledge community, but also in the public domain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rita. It was really, you have given us some real hard truths. And
I hope I haven't hurt you.
No. And you placed some challenges before social work educators. I think this is what is needed, in terms of when we are talking about the council. And that is why the council, as you see, in its framework, we have for every, expert panel, we have a practitioner and we have an educator. And this is what we really want. So thank you so much for that hard-hitting but very enlightening presentation. Now we go to the last presentation, and that is from Professor Ambadas Mohite, who will talk about the way forward. Professor Ambadas Mohite is the founder president of Maharashtra Association of Social Work Educators. He is senior academic consultant to Yashwantrao Chavan Maharashtra Open University Regional Center, Amravati. He was associate professor, College of Social Work, Amravati, and project director, Indus, child labor project, which was a joint venture of India and USA. He was the governor's nominee and then also the president's nominee and President of India's nominee to various university bodies in the country. He was honored with many awards, Best Teacher Award by BYWS Amravati, Lifetime Achievement Award by NAPSWI, New Delhi, and Lifetime Achievement Award from BIS Australia. He has also published a number of articles and in several dailies and journals on various social issues in different so in Ambadas we have a kind of an activist, a person who is on the ground and is always moving. Thank you very much, Professor Ambadas, for being with us. I would like to now request you to make your presentation. Thank you.
हेलो, सभी को प्रणाम। सबसे पहले मैं नाप्सवी मास्वे एंड एमएसएस इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ सोशल वर्क का तहे दिल से शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं कि उन्होंने ये 9th इंडियन सोशल वर्क कांग्रेस और आज के पैनल डिस्कशन का आयोजन किया। अभी तक के जितने भी पैनलिस्ट हैं उन्होंने बहुत ही सुंदरता से, बेखूबी से ये काउंसिल की जरूरत क्या है ये आपके सामने रखा है। मैं तो ये चाहूँगा कि डॉक्टर मुरली देसाई इन्होंने जो सोर्स बुक यहाँ पे प्रेजेंट किया वो सब जगह सर्कुलेट होना चाहिए और उसका ट्रांसलेशन रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में होना चाहिए, यानी हिंदी, मराठी, जितने भी अपने मेजर स्टेट्स है, तेलुगु, मलयालम, ये सारे इसमें यदि उसका ट्रांसलेशन हो जाए तो बहुत अच्छा रहेगा, यह हमें लगता है। दूसरी एक बात कि पिछले 1 साल से जब से हमने यह ड्राफ्ट बनाया, ड्राफ्ट भेजा, वी हैव ऑर्गेनाइज्ड एन नंबर ऑफ वेबिनार्स इन डिफरेंट कॉर्नर्स ऑफ आवर कंट्री। बहुत ज़्यादा कंसल्टेशंस हुए, बाद में वेबिनार्स भी हुए, लेकिन फिर भी मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये काउंसिल की जरूरत है। ये भावना हम सोशल वर्क एजुकेटर्स में और प्रैक्टिशनर्स में उतने पैमाने पे निर्माण नहीं कर पाए, क्योंकि इनिशियली जो टेम्पो था वो आज नजर नहीं आ रहा है। क्यों सबको नहीं लगना चाहिए, ये नहीं लगता कि ये काउंसिल की जरूरत है? क्यों हमें कुछ ही लोगों को इतने फ्रॉम बॉटम ऑफ आवर हार्ट ये लगता है कि काउंसिल होना चाहिए, काउंसिल होना चाहिए? लेकिन ये काउंसिल की जरूरत मुझे ये लगता है कि कम से कम हर सोशल वर्क एजुकेटर्स को तो लगना ही लगना चाहिए। लेकिन ऐसा क्यों नहीं हो रहा? यहाँ पे कहा गया है कि भाई 500 प्लस सोशल वर्क कॉलेजेस है और ईयरली करीब 45,000 50,000 BSW MSWs बाहर निकल रहे हैं और एक्टिव प्रैक्टिशनर्स डिफरेंट फील्ड्स में, हेल्थ रहे, ये रहे, अराउंड 5 lakhs दे आर देयर। तो ये प्रैक्टिशनर्स क्या तक हम ये क्या पहुंचा पाए हैं कि जो ऑलरेडी इन सर्विस है, ऑलरेडी इन एम्प्लॉयमेंट है, उनका क्या बेनिफिट होगा ये काउंसिल से? क्या उनको ये समझा देने में हम कम पड़ रहे हैं? दूसरी बात, जहां तक है ये सोशल वर्क एजुकेटर्स, यदि 520 कॉलेजेस है, 526 एज पर हायर एजुकेशन रिपोर्ट, तो ये कॉलेज के हर बंदे को लगना नहीं चाहिए क्या कि इसकी जरूरत है? हमारे स्टूडेंट्स जो पास आउट हो रहे हैं उनके एम्प्लॉयमेंट का इश्यू है, बहुत ज्यादा इश्यूज वी आर फेसिंग इन महाराष्ट्र। क्योंकि इनिशियल कुछ लोग तो कह सकते हैं कि भाई आप इतने जोरों शोरों से अभी नेशनल काउंसिल की बात कर रहे हो, इतने साल क्या किया? अब इतने साल क्या किया, ये सवाल तो उठाया जा सकता है, लेकिन इतने साल जो भी कुछ किया है वो तो हमने रखा ही है, लेकिन फिर भी क्या अभी करना गलत है? क्या अभी नहीं करना चाहिए? तो मुझे लगता है कि देर से आए दुरुस्त आए। जिस हम ताकत के साथ अभी लगे हुए हैं, उस ताकत को बढ़ाने की जरूरत है। इसलिए ये सारे एजुकेटर्स को हमें, मुझे लगता है कि हो सकता है ये ऑनलाइन वेबिनार्स के वजह से हम लोगों तक उस तरीके से पहुंच नहीं पाए होंगे। तो हम अभी कॉलेजेस खुलने शुरू हो गए हैं, अभी हमने ऑफलाइन डायरेक्ट कांटेक्ट कैसे कर सकते हैं, अलग अलग जगह जाके मीटिंग कैसे कर सकते हैं, ये देखना बहुत जरूरी है। और हमने यही बातें रखनी चाहिए, जैसा देवी प्रसाद जी ने कहा करिकुलम की बात पे, क्योंकि बदलते परिवेश में जो भी चैलेंजेस है, इनिशियली बहुत सोशल वर्क कॉलेजेस कम थे, एम्प्लॉयमेंट का वगैरह स्टूडेंट्स का इतना प्रॉब्लम नहीं था। आज जहां तक महाराष्ट्र की बात करूं मैं, तो महाराष्ट्र में पहले चाहे मेडिकल सोशल वर्कर हो ये, तो वहां पे MSW वगैरह अपॉइंट किए जाते थे। अभी ऐसा हो गया है कि MS सोशोलॉजी ऑप्शन हो गया है। ट्राइबल डेवलपमेंट की इसमें असिस्टेंट प्रोजेक्ट ऑफिसर क्लास 2 की पोस्ट थी, जहां सिर्फ MSW लिए जाते थे। अभी उन्होंने वहां पे कोई भी ग्रेजुएट लेना शुरू कर दिया। डिस्ट्रिक्ट सोशल वेलफेयर ऑफिसर क्लास 1 पोस्ट, वो एक्सक्लूसिवली फॉर MSWs थे, वो भी उसके भी रिक्रूटमेंट रूल्स चेंज कर दिए। तो इनिशियली तो सोशल वर्क ग्रेजुएट्स कम निकलते थे, अभी बड़े पैमाने पे सोशल वर्क ग्रेजुएट्स निकल रहे हैं, और दूसरी तरफ उनकी एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटीज जो है वो अपॉर्चुनिटीज कम करते जा रहे हैं। तो हमारे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मुझे लगता है कि ये काउंसिल कैसा जरूरी है, ये हमें एजुकेटर्स को समझा देना। दूसरा ये है कि हम, जैसा कहा गया कि हमारा खासकर ये पैंडेमिक में हमारा कहीं अस्तित्व जिस तरह से नजर आना चाहिए था वो नजर नहीं आया। इट्स अ फैक्ट। और दूसरी बात यह है कि जहां हम विजन 2030 की बात कर रहे हैं, सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स की बात कर रहे हैं, ये सारे इसमें डेवलपमेंट पार्टनर करके सोशल वर्क प्रोफेशन कहाँ है, उसकी पोजीशन कहाँ है? और ये भी है कि यदि करिकुलम ठीक से नहीं रहा तो ये 520 प्लस कॉलेजेस के इसमें हम जो ग्रेजुएट्स, सोशल वर्क ग्रेजुएट्स बाहर निकाल रहे हैं, क्या वो इतने वेल इन्फॉर्म, फुल्ली स्किल्ड ऐसे सोशल वर्कर्स हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशन से बाहर निकल रहे हैं जो इनजस्टिस, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन, इसके साथ फाइट करने के लिए तैयार है? Am I audible, Helen?
Yes, yes, you are audible. Yes, you are. Thank you.
क्या हमारे, मैं कुछ चंद कॉलेजेस की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, कुछ मुट्ठी भर कॉलेजेस की बात नहीं कर रहा हूं, मैं हर सोशल वर्क कॉलेज की बात कर रहा हूं कि यहां से निकलने वाला ग्रेजुएट क्या उतना कैपेबल है कि वो इश्यूज जो पॉलिटिकल सेंसिटिव है, जहां कन्फ्रंटेशन की बात आ सकती है, वायलेशन ऑफ ह्यूमन राइट्स की बात हो, सोशल जस्टिस के इश्यूज हो, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन के इश्यूज हो, उसके साथ फाइट करने के लिए क्या हमारे ग्रेजुएट्स तैयार है? तो उसके लिए जो क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन की बात हम कर रहे हैं, एनहांसमेंट की बात कर रहे हैं, तो उस पर्पस के लिए ये काउंसिल की जरूरत कैसे है, ये भी बताना जरूरी है। और मुझे लगता है कि बाकी जो प्रैक्टिशनर्स है उनको ये लगेगा कि हमें रजिस्ट्रेशन यदि मिलता है तो हमारा एक अस्तित्व, एक हमारी पहचान समाज में बनेगी। ये भी बात उनके तक पहुंचाना जरूरी है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है। तो ये तो चीजें हमने आने वाले समय में करना है, और भी कितने ऑफलाइन कुछ हम कॉन्फ्रेंसेस ले सकते हैं, वर्कशॉप्स ले सकते हैं, वो करेंगे। लेकिन इन ब्रीफ जो अभी तक के हम लोगों ने किया, और जहां सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का कुछ रिस्पांस नहीं आ रहा है, तो मुझे लगता है कि अभी हमने फिर से एक बार ये लेटर कैंपेन शुरू कर देना चाहिए मेल के जगह, क्योंकि मुझे लगता है कि एटलीस्ट 2000 मेल्स तो भी गए हैं, इवन मोर देन दैट, लेकिन हम एटलीस्ट कहेंगे कि 2000 मेल्स गए हैं, उसमें से एक भी मेल का जवाब सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट नहीं दे रहा, तो हम अभी मेल के जगह लेटर्स भेजेंगे। हर सोशल वर्क कॉलेज से एक लेटर जाना चाहिए, और हर एसोसिएशन से भी एक लेटर, फिर से उसको रिमाइंडर कहिए आप, वो जाना चाहिए। मैं ये समझता हूं कि उसके साथ ड्राफ्ट भेजने की जरूरत नहीं है नेशनल काउंसिल की, क्योंकि ड्राफ्ट भेज चुके हैं, और ड्राफ्ट वैसे ही वो अडॉप्ट करेंगे ये भी संभावना नहीं है। तो हमने सिर्फ इंसिस्ट करना है कि हमें नेशनल काउंसिल ऑफ सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन चाहिए। आप, हमने जो ड्राफ्ट भेजा है वो वैसे के वैसा एक्सेप्ट करना तो नामुमकिन लग रहा मुझे, कैसे भी हो, लेकिन नेशनल काउंसिल ऑफ सोशल वर्क एजुकेशन आना चाहिए। आगे क्या करना है उसका देखा जा सकता है, तो ये हमने फोकस करना चाहिए, या इंसिस्ट करना चाहिए कि हमें नेशनल काउंसिल चाहिए, और उसके लिए हर कॉलेज से, हर प्रोफेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से, हर प्रैक्टिशनर्स एसोसिएशन से एक लेटर जाना चाहिए। फिर ऐसा है कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट का मामला है, और यहां पर जो एमपीज है, तो लोकसभा के मेंबर्स अभी जो है 543 है, राज्यसभा मेंबर्स दे आर 245। मैं ये समझता हूं कि 10% एमपीज के लेटर्स हमने भेजना चाहिए। जहां तक पॉलिटिकल, यदि इससे देखा जाए तो मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट है, तो बीजेपी के जो मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट है दे आर हाईएस्ट, 300 मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट है। कांग्रेस के 52 है, देन डीएम के 24, ये जो मेजर पार्टीज है, तृणमूल कांग्रेस के 22, वाईएसआर रेड्डी कांग्रेस के 22, और बाकी जनता दल यू के 16 है, शिवसेना के 15 है, और बीजू जनता दल के 12, और तेलंगाना के 9, और बाकी तो 4-4, 5-5 है, और 1-1, 2-2 है। तो ये मेजर पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को भी हम अप्रोच कैसे करें वो सोचना चाहिए। यदि स्टेट वाइज मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स हम देखते हैं, तो सबसे ज्यादा मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स यूपी में है 80, देन महाराष्ट्र में 48 मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स है। आफ्टर महाराष्ट्र, वेस्ट बंगाल में 41 है, बिहार में 40 है, देन आई थिंक तमिलनाडु में 39, केरला 20, और कर्नाटका 25, एमपी 28, कर्नाटका भी 28, राजस्थान 25, गुजरात 26। तो ये यहाँ के जो हमारे डिफरेंट एसोसिएशंस के ऑफिस बेरर्स है, इनको हम अपील करें कि आपके स्टेट से मिनिमम इतने लोगों के लेटर्स मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट के आप भेजिए। मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि यदि कल चल के हमें और कुछ करना है अलग ढंग से, तो हमारे पास रिकॉर्ड रहेगा कि एटलीस्ट 10% ऑफ मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स डिमांडेड दिस काउंसिल, और ये हमारे लिए बहुत कामयाब, यानी एक महत्वपूर्ण हमारा ये डॉक्यूमेंट रहेगा। फिर मुझे लगता है कि हम लोगों ने फिर से, हर एसोसिएशन ने और कुछ जिन जिन लोगों ने इनिशिएटिव लिया है, उन्होंने राइट टू इंफॉर्मेशन में एजुकेशन मिनिस्ट्री, प्राइम मिनिस्टर हाउस, नीति आयोग, जहां जहां हमने रिप्रेजेंटेशन भेजे हैं, वहां आरटीआई भेजना चाहिए, आरटीआई के तरफ एप्लीकेशन भेजना चाहिए कि हमने इतने जो, या खुद ने हमने जो मेल भेजा था या हमने लेटर भेजा था, उसके ऊपर आपके तरफ से क्या एक्शन हुई। तो आरटीआई में मैं ये समझता हूं कि हम यदि प्लान करें तो एटलीस्ट 200 एप्लीकेशंस हमारे ये तीनों जगह जानी चाहिए। ताकि उन्हें कुछ ना कुछ तो जवाब देना पड़ा कि ये एप्लीकेशंस का, ये मेल्स का उन्होंने क्या किया, लेटर जो भेजे थे, प्रेजेंटेशन जो भेजे थे, उसका क्या किया। तो मुझे लगता है कि आरटीआई के तरफ हम जाएंगे। फिर हम लोग अभी तक के तो बड़े डेमोक्रेटिक वे से ही चल रहे सिर्फ, और कोविड पैंडेमिक केस में हम लोगों ने सिर्फ मेल और ये पोस्ट का सहारा लिया। लेकिन हम एक्टिविस्ट भी है, ये एजुकेटर्स हम एक्टिविस्ट भी है, ये भी बताना पड़ेगा। तो ठीक है, एकदम आंदोलन नहीं, लेकिन हम एक आत्मक्लेश, उसको भी आंदोलन कह सकते हैं, ये प्रार्थना कह सकते हैं, एक चिंतन। हम कहीं महात्मा गांधी के स्टैचू के सामने या कहीं और जगह बैठ जाए, या हो सकता है हम यदि प्रॉपरली प्लान करें तो हर स्टेट में एक ही दिन में, हर स्टेट क्यों, जहां जहां सोशल वर्क कॉलेजेस है, उन्होंने एक 2 घंटे का मौन व्रत या आत्मक्लेश आंदोलन करके ये करे। और मुझे लगता है कि इसके लिए एक अच्छा दिन होगा 10th of December, ह्यूमन राइट्स डे। तो उस दिन यदि हम ये प्लान करें और ऑल ओवर इंडिया जहां जहां भी सोशल वर्क कॉलेजेस है वहां पे, कि भाई हम ये सब कर रहे हैं, तो हमें ये पता नहीं, हम आत्मक्लेश इसलिए कर रहे हैं कि हमें समझ नहीं आ रहा कि गवर्नमेंट हमारे तरफ क्यों ध्यान नहीं दे रही, कहाँ हम गलत है, कहाँ हमारे से गलतियां हो रही है, कि हम ये जो क्वालिटी ऑफ एजुकेशन की बात कर रहे हैं उसके लिए भी गवर्नमेंट ध्यान देने के लिए तैयार नहीं है। ऐसा क्यों? इसलिए हम इंट्रोस्पेक्ट करने के लिए या प्रार्थना के लिए, चिंतन के लिए बैठे हैं। तो ये भी एक ये हो सकता है। और उसके बाद में यदि जरूरत पड़े तो वी कैन गो फॉर धरना। जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ हायर एजुकेशन है तो उसके सामने कहिए या और कहिए, ऑल ओवर इंडिया से कम हम 50 लोग भी जाके धरना देंगे तो वो भी चीज एक ये हो सकती है। लेकिन मैं ये समझता हूँ कि ये इन शॉर्ट मैंने कुछ चीजें कही है, और हम कुछ किस ढंग से आगे बढ़ सकते हैं ये देखेंगे, क्योंकि हमने जोनल कमिटीज बनाई, कुछ रीजनल या स्टेट लेवल कमिटीज भी बनाई ये चीज आगे ले जाने के लिए। लेकिन फिर से एक बार ये सारे हमने अभी तक के जो प्रयास किए उसके ऊपर उसका एक इवैल्यूएशन करते हुए नए स्ट्रेटेजीज क्या होनी चाहिए, किस ढंग से आगे बढ़नी चाहिए, क्योंकि इसमें तो दो राह नहीं है। इसमें तो पूरी जितने भी लोग आज यहाँ मौजूद है उनकी सहमति बनी हुई है कि हमारे लिए काउंसिल की कैसे आवश्यकता है। तो उससे आवश्यकता तो है, लेकिन अब गवर्नमेंट ने ये करना चाहिए, इसके लिए हम क्या करें? मुझे लगता है एक्शन प्लान बनाने की आवश्यकता है, और उस एक्शन प्लान के मुताबिक आने वाले 2 महीने 3 महीने का जो हम यदि या 30 दिसंबर तक कुछ एक्शन प्लान बनाते हैं, जैसा मैंने 10th of December की बात कही, तो वो एक प्रोग्राम हो जाएगा। उसके बाद में एक धरना आंदोलन हो सकता है, क्योंकि सिर्फ मेल के जरिए हम नजर नहीं आ रहे। हमने मेल भिजवा है तो मुझे लगता है कि कॉग्निजेंस लेना चाहिए हमारा गवर्नमेंट ने, ऐसा कुछ ना कुछ करना पड़ेगा। इसलिए थ्रू मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट्स भी एक तरफ कोशिश जारी रखनी होगी, और दूसरी तरफ हमने जब अभी आपके सामने रखे वो भी प्रयास करने होंगे। बस मैं इतना ही कहना चाहता हूँ, क्योंकि बाकी जो चीजें हैं कि विजन 2030 में या सोशल अपना सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स के इसमें हम सोशल वर्क प्रोफेशन किस ढंग से हम पार्टिसिपेट कर सकते हैं, एक पार्टनर करके हमारा कैसे कंट्रीब्यूशन रह सकता है, ये सारी बातें हमने कही है और बाकी भी लोगों ने कह चुके हैं। तो इससे भी परे होके आज सिर्फ काउंसिल एक एजेंडा लेके हम कैसे आगे बढ़े, यही हमारा सबमिशन है। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you so much, Professor Ambadas. And in the true activist mode you were, giving us all suggestions about how we need to really go ahead in this campaign. Thank you so much. Now we have I mean, all the panelists have said, what they have to say. All the panelists have been very beautifully and sincerely, without mincing words, critically discussed about the challenges in social work education and practice. And they've done it so beautifully that I don't need to really, summarize anything here. And since we do not have too much of time, I would request that we have some kind of a discussion. So if members have questions to ask, if maybe about 10 minutes. Is that okay, Sanjay ji? 10 minutes for question and answers. Yeah, if anybody has, can you?
Hello.
Yes. Is that Ms. Vanita? Yes.
Yes. Hello. Good afternoon to one and all. I'm research scholar from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Actually, I'm happy to listen all of you and my all professor who are here. So I just want to some clarification and some question already in my head. It's like uh, the it's always sometimes it's very difficult to get opportunity in government sector for the MA in social work students. So like these students always has been neglected from this government jobs. Like I have faced this problem. So the government always why they are not considering TIC's degree for the government job. So I'm not understand what is the problem behind that. So I want to,
Yeah.
place this
Okay.
point in front all these academicians.
Okay.
So if anybody can respond
Helen,
and
Helen,
Yes.
yeah. See, in government, for different jobs, there are different recruitment rules, RR, we call it as. As far as Maharashtra government is concerned, for some posts, they have categorically mentioned MSW. And what they feel, this MSW is different from MA in social work. So they don't consider MA in social work graduates eligible for this post, whether they are passed from Tata Institute or any other institute. So this is the issue of nomenclature. Because they have mentioned MSW as nomenclature, and they feel MA is something different because many times Master of Arts, and this is Master of Social Work. So Master of Arts, though in bracket it's social work, but they treat as something different. And that's why that issue is there. Tata Institute must write to Government of India, at least as far as Maharashtra is concerned, I'm saying to the Chief Secretary that these are the issues our students are facing, and I think government will do the needful.
Thank you, Ambadas. Any other question?
thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else? Well, if there are no more questions. Okay, I just would like to say a little, I mean, it's not really, I do not want to repeat what the speakers have said because they've made an excellent presentation. It was so clear that everybody has got an understanding of what lies ahead of us. There are lots of things that, lots of challenges that we as educators, as practitioners, as professional social workers need to really address ourselves to.
Helen, Sanjay wants to say something, I think.
Sanjay, sorry. Yeah. Yes, Sanjay. Sorry, I can't see him.
I must thank all the panelists to bring out the issues of importance.
Yeah.
And all panelists are very experienced social work educator and practitioners. And we know with this that how things are going on from last 1 year when we are doing the advocacy campaign. Now, our own advocacy campaign gave us few point of thinking and food for thought that if our advocacy effort is not bringing some desired result, what we teach to the student, whether that will be, there is some fault in our teaching or in our practice, or we are not able to understand the different cultural, socio-political scenario. And it is not only the issue of employment of our student or students, those who are passing out. Data speaks that large number of students are coming to social work. And data also tells that post 2001, in this new century, the number of schools have grown up very fastly. That's mean if a discipline is being demanded by the society, only then people are coming to that discipline. So when we have to think in terms of Vision 2030, I think in terms of a vision of social sector itself, which has been primarily our area of operation. That means social sector is not getting adequate attention by the state. So should not we ask the state to rectify that cause which is creating problem for us. When we say that curriculum is not good, or the competencies or the knowledge bank or the techniques the students, they are not equipped with the present challenges, it's perfectly okay. We must address the curriculum framework. In fact, NAPSWI already has planned that we will propose a model curriculum framework, and I, Professor Gandhi Das, Murli Desai, we have discussed this issue also. But at the same time, we have to think that social work position is not worsening because of the social work. It is also worsening because of the changing scenario in the society. The newer branches are coming up, the newer nomenclature are coming up. There is a new branching out of the social work education itself. What Rita ji said is a disaster management, and what yesterday Jiru talked of the social entrepreneurship. All are branching out, which has been demanded by this fast changing socio-political and mostly the economic global society. And we do understand that. And in this process of race, somehow, somewhere our curriculum is not bringing those behavioral competencies in our students, which we require to meet out the today's challenges. So this advocacy campaign for council is not only for creating an identity or not creating for a legal body, but it is talking of the social work profession as such, social work education, and larger perspective of the social sector itself. And I see in that since if social sector will not get adequate place, then how we will have the nation building? How the Vision 2030 will be achieved? So my bigger question is that council is one instrument which may bring certain changes which we require, and through this platform I want to convey to the government, to the state, to my own fellow being and other stakeholder, that the demand of council is not for my own identity or identity of professional social worker, but it is in a larger context of the social sector, and it is in a larger context of Vision 2030, and tomorrow it will be, sustainable development goals. So if we are not able to take care of other partner of our society, one missing link is in our social work curriculum is that we are not also catering the lower level functionaries engaged into the social service workforce. And earlier we have a lot many programs for ICDS workers, health workers. Now, social work has also to think in terms of ASA workers and, Anganwadi workers. That is all, they are also part of the service delivery system. Of course, they may not be MSW, but what we are doing for them so that we get a larger support from the sector itself. These are some questions which I try to thought that I will bring and they might help us to redesign and re-strategize our advocacy techniques or our advocacy styles. So I think that in light of this, there is a need that this advocacy campaign goes to all stakeholders, including the management of social work schools. You know, many places there are private schools and they are being by management of social work school. Now we have to address their concern. I'm being told that many management people are worried that if the council will come, this might hurt their school in negatively.
Sanjay ji, you have gone mute. We can't hear you. Hello, Sanjay ji, we can't hear you.
Yeah, so I was just trying to say that management people, they are also should be our stakeholder in this advocacy process. And bringing out the Sourcebook is a wonderful idea, but can we have the second edition of Sourcebook, which is much larger, which covers the
Views or fears of the management of private schools, or which fears, the people, those who are in the central university. So I think there is a plethora of issues which is linked with the council. And thank you very much for giving me opportunity. And all panelists has wonderfully bring out one or other issues. So thank you, chairperson, moderator of this session, to giving me this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay ji. Sanjay ji, are we also having the release of the e-book? Is that happening, or?
We have already shown it, but if you think that we can bring it once again, can technically show the book that you have just, you have on, Technium has on, yeah. So the first cover page and fine. And let's virtually take it released.
Okay.
ताली बजा
Thank you.
Definitely,
Thank
definitely
you.
there are there are definitely, many things that we can include in this. There are suggestions that are coming from many sources where they say maybe this can be included, that can be included. We can take this as the first edition. We can have many more editions after this and probably improve this as time goes by. I think the time is up, so I would like to conclude. I would like to conclude by saying a very, very big thank you to all the panelists. They have really, as I said, without mincing words, expressed their concerns and talked about the challenges that we need to really look into as social work educators and practitioners if our profession has to go anywhere ahead. We need to be recognized. We need to be recognized by the government. We need to be recognized by civil society organizations. And as Rita very, very correctly said, we need to have people, social workers, who we feel proud of to engage. It cannot be like Professor Deviprasad said, a group of mediocre social workers whom we have to kind of pick up because they have a social work degree. And for that, the council is a very, very, critical, aspect that we need to really look at. And so thank you very much, all of you, for being there. I feel recommitted to be part of this campaign because, listening to so many people, I feel that, well, maybe we need to listen to some of these challenges because many of us have these things in our mind. We do not express it. We probably, we just talk about issues, we talk about different aspects, but we very rarely talk about our profession and where it is going. So thank you very much for a wonderful morning. I mean, now it's afternoon. So thanks a lot to all the panelists and to the organizers, to NAPSWI, to Matru Seva, to Maswe, to all the associations that have been involved, all those who have been here present for this panel discussion, to Professor Murli Desai, Professor Deviprasad, Ms. Rita Panikar, and to Professor Ambadas Mohite, and of course, Professor Sanjay Bhatt, for having organized and, for having allowed us space in this National Congress. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.